My name is Ivy Prosper, and today I am going to be talking to Dr. John Carlos, a legend. You may know him as one of the athletes who stood on the podium at the 1968 Olympics with his hand in the air, fist raised in the Black Power symbol, protesting the things that were happening to Black people in the United States and using that platform as a tool to speak. Now he's in Ghana for the first time, and I'm excited to talk to him today. It's going to be an engaging conversation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and get your popcorn out. This is going to be a good conversation. Today, I am with a iconic man. He is one of the two men who at the 1968 Olympics had the raised fist, the Black Power fist, as a protest, because we all know what was happening in the United States as far as the treatment of Black people in America and Black people in other parts of the world. So he's in Ghana. This is not his first time in Africa, but his first time in Ghana. And so Dr. John Carlos took some time out of his busy itinerary to sit down with me to have this conversation, just to learn about his experience in Ghana and about his experiences after winning that medal at the Olympics. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you, because you are somebody that I read about, and always thought that it was an important moment in history, and to think that you ended up in Ghana, and for me to get to meet you, for me it was an honor as well.
Well, the Most High has a definite plan, and I'm just so honored and thrilled that He put me in His plan, not just to be in Mexico City and make that statement, but to actually have an opportunity to share my experiences with so many people that wasn't even aware of it. Mm-hmm. And then to also find that those individuals was alive and young at the time and have grown with it. Mm-hmm. So for me to, go full circle with this, it's a blessing.
Yeah, truly. I want to take it back really briefly before we talk about your Ghana experience. I want to take it back to that moment when you won the medal. How did it feel knowing you won, but you won for a country that in sports, they're looking at you like, yeah, you're amazing. But the truth is, they're not really respecting you. How did that feel in that moment?
Well, I had an experience prior to going to the games. We took a vote. The athletes collectively took a vote as to whether we should boycott the games or whether we should go. They voted to go. I was very disenchanted about that. Mm-hmm. I decided I wasn't going to go. But the Almighty always talks to me. I always tell people I'm not a religious guy, but I'm a spiritual guy. And He shot to my brain and told me, said, John, you can stay home. But the question is, well, you think someone's going to go to the victory stand in your place? Will they represent you the way you need to be represented? Then I chose to go. So now I go to the track at the trials, I break the world record, but the old cloud is still hanging over your head in terms of you being one that's out of the box. You're not conforming as they would like to have you conform. So they took the world record away. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go to the games to win a medal. Medal was secondary to me. I went to the games primarily to do what I did on that victory stand. Once the running was over, I smiled to myself and said, now we can get busy in terms of why I came to the Olympic Games. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the end result is what you saw in the victory stand.
Right. Did you two plan it? Did you two plan that if you win, this is what's going to happen?
Well, I had gone to Tommie after the quarter semi and told him that I was disenchanted with the fact that the boycott was called off and I wanted to make a statement. What's your take? He said, I'm with you. When he said that, I had two things in mind. First of all, how do I go about giving him the medal? Because the medal meant nothing to me, but it meant everything to him. So why should I win a gold medal if it has no value to me? Mm-hmm. So just merely because he said that he was with me, you can see in the race, I'm looking around just to make sure I'm one of the top three in that race to get on the victory stand and do what I had to do. The medal, as I stated, has no significant value to me, but yet still it might have all the value to my kids. And I'm saying this in the respect that they told me they were going to take my medal away after the demonstration because they didn't particularly like what they saw. And I had to explain to them that you didn't knock on my door and tell me we have an open slot, we want to put you on the Olympic team. You didn't knock on my door and tell me, say, hey man, we're gonna put you on the victory stand. We have an extra medal we're gonna give you. I had to earn those medals. Going to the trials in America, going to the rounds in Mexico, I earned the medal. So if you're coming to take this medal, bring the militia, because you're gonna need them. So they backed away. But in essence, what they did for 57 years, they've been lying to the general public, telling them that they've taken the medals away. Why? Because they train young kids, go for the goal. But if you step out of the circle, we're gonna penalize you, we're gonna take that goal away from you.
So they made it out to be like they took it away, but you got to keep it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's a part of the whole propaganda machine.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. And it's sad that people haven't woke up to this. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of how they use propaganda and psychology to destroy our minds and our will.
Now, after that happened, what were some of the things you faced when you went back home? Did you face any resistance when you went back to the US after that happened? Or did you get a lot of praise from people?
Well, it was like two sides of the street. We got praise from a lot of people. A lot of people understood and respected and appreciated what we did. But on the outside of that, it was a lot of fear factors. And like people say, I respect you and I honor you for what you did, but I'm afraid to be in the picture with you, because if people see me in the picture with you, they'll think that I think like you, and then it's going to deprive me. Like a young lady asked me yesterday at the university about the sacrifice. Did you think you would mess up your career? And I said, what career? Any career that I have, I created. They didn't give me a career. So I'm not going to subjugate myself to a second standard of life based on some supposedly career that I might have if I be a good boy. I'm just trying to be the man and the individual that God put me on this earth to be. I'm not going to let nobody change me from that. So in terms of them trying to sway my mind or intimidate me in terms of how I'm supposed to conform, I'm not with that.
I can understand why she asked that question, because there are a lot of people who don't take a stand in what they believe in because of the fear of the repercussions, not being able to get a job, feeling like they won't, be able to move around in society. And especially at that time, I mean, right now we still have racism that happens, but it seems like back then it was a different time, the civil rights era, where you had, Martin Luther King was murdered, Malcolm X was murdered. Like it was a different time that I feel like more people would have been afraid.
Well, the bottom line with things you just said, when you sit back and you think about Dr. King murdered, Malcolm X murdered, the bottom line to that is they died. Regardless of how they died, they died. I'm going to die, you're going to die, and all those individuals that have fear are going to die. So what you have to understand is the life that you have right now is not necessarily a life for you. Your life is the path or the bridge to your kids, to your offsprings, so they will have a better life. If I don't choose to step up and do the things that I feel is necessary, opposed to my kids having a great life down the line, by me sitting still doing nothing with a sock in my mouth, saying nothing, it's going to convert back to my father and my father's father and his father in terms of how black people were received in this life that they had in America. So it's necessary for me to step up, and it's necessary for black people to realize that it's not about your life, it's about the future life of your kids. Someone has to be that sacrificial lamb to make it better. I'm not a religious person, as I stated. When Jesus went into the marketplace, I mean, he's the most heaviest dude on the planet or in the universe. He didn't have to go through the market and knock all the stuff off the tables for pillaging the people. He could have winked his eye and everything could have went off. But he did it on a physical vein to show them, say, hey man, you have to let them know that you're disenchanted and we will no longer tolerate or allow this. So he set himself as an example for people to see physically. And that's exactly, what we did in Mexico City.
So after leaving a life in track and field, I know that you ended up playing sports in Canada. How did you end up in Canada?
Well, I actually was playing with the Philadelphia Eagles. And unfortunately, I had a knee injury. And in the process of healing from the knee injury, they saw that I was there. And as being a runner, they figured speed is always good for football. So they chose to draft me with the Montreal Alouettes. Things were pretty bad for me economically in America. I thought this would be a great opportunity for my family and I to go up there to make a living. I went there, I fell in love with Montreal, and I told the people if I play football here, I don't just want to play and be on the outside, I want to be on the inside. I want to be a citizen. And they told me, we can't do that. And I pushed the issue, and they said, all right, go down and call this guy. And I called, and next thing you know, we had landed immigrant status.
Okay.
So I pride myself in that, in terms of having a dual citizenship.
Mm-hmm. So how was the experience in Canada compared to America when it comes to racism?
Well, you know, there's racism everywhere, but there's scales of racism. In Canada, the scale of racism is nowhere near what it is in the United States. The United States, they are so racist at times where they're bold, they're in your face. You know, and you sit back and you look at religion, where a lot of people are concerned about religion, and you think to yourself, say, wow, you know, when you go back in history, you think about racism. Racism started through Christianity. With all the slavery that's going on in the domes or the pillows of this environment that they have here in Ghana, on top of that in Villa was the church, Christianity. They promoted racism, they promoted slavery, they promoted whipping and killing and so forth like that, from the Pope on down. But we have been, as I said, manipulated to believe that this is a good God, this is a fair God. But yet and still he's fair enough to say it's okay to do what you've done to black people. It's okay to do what you do to people of color. This is what's running rampant in the United States now. They use religion as a shield. When you sit back and think about the KKK, when the KKK was running all through the South, what's the first thing they put up? They put up a burning cross one more time to intimidate your mind.
And you mentioned about the church on top of the dungeons where the people were captured, the captured enslaved Africans.
Yes.
You went to the slave forts
yes.
The last couple of days in Cape Coast. What was that experience like when you went there?
Well, it's very moving. You know, I've gone to Senegal, and I saw the situation there at Caicos Island, Goree Island, I mean. But yet and still, it's a sinister move. Just to think that a human being could even be that sinister, to even do that to another human being, regardless of what your religion is, or your gender is, or your ethnicity is. Just the mere fact that one human being would do that to another. I don't think any species on Earth, from a frog or a roach or whatever on this planet, I don't think they could ever have done something like that to their sector in life, as what man has done to man in this world, merely because of the color of my skin. They don't know me, but it appears to me they do it because they have a fear based on the gifts that God gave people of color.
And what are some of the gifts?
Well, you look at it as evident. First of all, we're more spiritual than anybody else, but the only difference is a lot of people don't understand their spirituality. They get spirituality confused with religion. Okay, in terms of the talents that they gave us, in terms of us having the physical anatomy that will attract any ethnicity on the planet, in terms of our intelligence, in terms of just the melanin in our skin. So we have so many more gifts that they have fear. And I always tell people, if they could figure out how to take our melanin, they'd destroy black people a long time ago.
I heard that somebody told me they heard from science that someone's trying to figure out how to get melanin, to inject melanin into themselves.
That's right. If they could succeed in that, which God has always blocked that, and they will never get that. But if they was to succeed, they would have no need for us whatsoever. It's just like right now, when you say blacks have jobs in the government in the United States. 3/4 of the government, federal government, was run by people of color, blacks in particular. But then you sit back and say, wow, a year or two ago, there was a marriage taking place. And this marriage that was taking place, most people in America don't even have a clue as about this marriage. And they said, what marriage are you talking about? I said, the marriage is AI and robotics. So first AI come in, and then we have no need for professors in the universities. AI come in, we don't have no need for the secretary in the office. AI come in, we don't need nobody to work for Amazon or Xerox, any of those individual places, because now we have robots that take their place. So what happens? Now for the first time, within this whole syndrome, for the first time, white people are starting to get a feel for what black people have been feeling all along. Because now you're being pushed out of your job. Well, we've been pushed out forever. Now you have a situation where you have to get on food stamps as a white person. low individual white people that was on food stamps. That's why food stamps was created for them originally. But they said, nah, black people were the ones that was on food stamps.
But it was mostly white people.
Mostly white people. But now, when you sit back and think the way the society is with this AI, excuse me, and robotics, you sit back and now you say to yourself, well, we talked about the millionaires. Well, the millionaires are passé. Now you talk about the billionaires. Well, they took the billionaires and put the billionaires on the shelf, and now we talk about the trillionaires. So now with the trillionaires and the billionaires and the robotics and the AI, now everybody, with the exception of those that I just mentioned, are going to be on a welfare check, or they're going to be on a food stamp check, because there's going to be no more physical jobs.
There's so much change. You've seen so much change throughout your life, because you're 80 years old now.
Correct.
And you've seen that, like, from the early days of, you know, different technologies and just changing over time. Did you ever imagine seeing something like this?
Oh yeah, a long time ago. When I was a kid in school, I knew that they was going to have someone that slot in the mail, opposed to a man standing there putting mails in the chute. It was going to be a machine eventually come and do it, just like they did when I was a kid in General Motors, when they started making cars. It used to be a man with his hands putting the car together. Then all of a sudden they became
the robotic arms.
Mechanical, yeah. The conveyor belt and all kind of stuff came about. And eventually we were going to get to this point. So, you know, and it got to this point basically because of greed. Because the individuals were making so much money, they said, well, why should we make all this money and pay out our overhead? Let's knock our overhead down, and then we could have all the money.
This is not your first time in Africa, as I mentioned earlier. Which other African countries have you come to?
I've gone to, like I say, Senegal, been to South Africa, been to Nigeria, been to Kenya, and now Ghana. And
what are some of the things that you've learned since traveling to different African countries that you think African Americans need to know? Because sometimes I speak to people who say they have no desire to visit Africa. They're like, we're not African, we don't need to see Africa. What are some of the things you've learned that you think that they should know and why they should visit Africa?
Well, I think ignorance runs on both sides of the street. You know, Africa and blackness here, and Africans and blackness in America. Mm-hmm. We've been naive towards one another based on the seeds that have been, you know, put upon us. You know, we say we can't trust the Africans learn we can't trust black Americans. It's the same game that they play in the psychological game. And until we can fuse together and become united as one, where we trying to make Africa now. We're trying to make it the same in America, make one blackness in America. But we have fragments. You understand? In that essence of the fragments, where we say in Mexico City, they talk about this fist. Well, you know, there was 5 individuals of color right here. And if I say I can move this pot from this end to that end over there, we can make a significant difference for humanity, blacks in particular within humanity. And one of them jumped down and said, let me push it and try and move it. He can't move it. Another one said, man, you know, you got to put your hips into it when you move it. Let me show you. And he jumped down all day. He can't move it. But by that time, the 5 of them realized if we come together, join together our forces, now we become a very powerful force. That's the significance of black power. The fact that we are aware of one another's strength, the love and respect that we should have for one another. What they took from us, they're not going to give it back, but we had the means to take it back.
And what do you think about this generation? Because when I watch old documentaries and films that talk about the civil rights era, it seemed like there was this collective movement, like people were willing to work together, come together, have marches, have sit-ins. What do you think about the current generation? Do you think that we've lost our way? Do you think that there's a possibility for people to come together like then, especially with the way things have been changing in the US lately?
That's a twofold situation as well. When you sit back and say people coming together, back in the 60s, as you said, we were finding ourselves as black people. We were united. We had various sectors in our society that we could look at. We looked at Black Panthers in terms of their strength. We looked at our black intellectuals in terms of their strength. We looked at the history we had on Wall Street, Black Wall Street, in our strength. Then they took and they watered all those down and they buried them. And how did they bury them? Because they buried them to take the dollar bill and jingle the dollar bill in front of our face. And it's not about your gender. It's not about your religion. It's not about who you are. It's about the dollar. And we will let everybody make the dollar. Now, a lot of black people go out and say, man, I'm a millionaire. You know, I'm a multi-millionaire. And I tell them, I say, yeah, you're a multi-millionaire in your mind. I said, but the money you have is pale in comparison to the money that your race has made for the individual that's giving you this millionaire status. I don't understand. What do you mean? I said, well, pick a beach out in your mind. Any beach you want to go to. You got a beach? All right, let's go. Let's go to the Blacktop. I said, how much you worth? Well, I'm worth $50 million. Great, you worth $50 million. Is that a lot of money? Oh, that's a lot of money. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Take a walk with me off the blacktop. Let's go over to the sand. Every grain of sand you see is worth $1 million, or $50 million. Every grain of sand. You got 50 in your hand? Here, every grain of sand. Take 2 hands and scoop up as much as you can. Now let's go back to the blacktop. Look in your hand. Do you have a lot of money? Oh, I got buku money. I said, well, turn around and look where you got this from. And think to yourself, who made that money for them? You're one individual that made that $50 million. Think about how many people of your color contributed to making all that money for them. Let's take it into account. And then when you get it, you got 50 million, so now you think you above your own people because of economic status. How many of us go back and say, we got professional basketball players, football players, boxers, the whole 9 yards. After all these years, why haven't we gone back and rebuilt Black Wall Street? How come we don't own any industries? You understand? It's because they still have us divided, and with our economic growth, we feel like I'm too rich to even sit down and confer with you about doing something collectively.
That's deep. What do you think, what do you think we need to do for that to change?
Well, from my perspective right now, the only way we're gonna change it, I don't know how long this bubble gonna go along, and I say bubble, I'm talking about Earth, based on what I see. But if it should go on, the only way we're gonna be able to change it now is through the grassroots. We gotta start training kids from puberty in terms of who they are, what their gifts are, and what they can do with the gifts that God gave them. How they can know about love for one another. And we're gonna change it because this is gonna be something that's gonna be embedded in them. They're gonna grow with it. And it's gonna become a very powerful force. When you find a whole bunch of people together and they start mingling, they find that, hey man, we got a lot in common. We think about the same thing. We think about our history. We think about our struggles, but at the same time, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of our growth collectively. And that's the way it's gonna change. We can't just go out and use a water gun and spray people and think that because I sprayed one of them or I baptized them with the holy water, that they're gonna change. Only way it's gonna change is through growth.
How many kids do you have?
5.
5 kids. And have they continued on with some of the legacy of some of the things that you've done, because you've been an activist throughout your life?
Very much so, very much so. My son is in St. Croix. He's pushing, trying to wake black people up. I have 3 daughters. They're trying to push, wake people up in their own way. We are freedom fighters, for our people. We ain't telling anybody you have to do anything. That's your choice. All we trying to let you know is, here, let's look at both sides of the aisle. And then you make a decision, because bottom line, when the dust settles, whichever decision you make, you're gonna have to live with that decision. All of those people that chose to say, I'm not gonna do anything. Well, you led into the show and you were talking about people that could do something. I had an opportunity to be with Dr. King.
You did?
Yes, and Dr. King stated that they sent a letter, and in the letter they told him they had a bullet with his name on it and he wouldn't have to wait. I said, Dr. King, why would you go back to Memphis if they threatened your life? And what he said to me was profound, because I never looked at it from this perspective. He said to me, he said, John, I have to go back and stand for those that can't stand for themselves. And before I could digest it, he came back and he said, and John, I have to go back and stand for those that won't stand for themselves. When he said won't stand for themselves, it means that they had the opportunity to stand and they chose not to stand. I never looked at it from that perspective. But we have a lot of people out there that's in that zone right now. Like you go back and say, well, who are you talking about? I look at one guy, Senator Tim Scott out of South Carolina, black as that shirt over there. But in his heart and his soul, he's a white man. Or he wants to be white. But at the same time, while he wants his needs, they still disrespect him as they've done black people all along. But he still can't come to realization in his mind.
That's very profound that you had that interaction with Dr. Martin Luther King. and what he said has resonated. He clearly had no fear despite being threatened. And I think that's what it takes right now, because I think a lot of people have fear right now.
Well, I had an opportunity to meet with both Dr. King and Malcolm X. Malcolm X before Dr. King. I was running with Malcolm X when I was about 13, 14 years old. I had an opportunity to run with him up to the time of his death.
So you spent a lot of time with him? Yes.
You know, I would just go from one location to another. I didn't sit in any meetings. I'm trying to suck up the knowledge. But what that demonstration that took place in Mexico City was a combination of Dr. King and Malcolm X. So Malcolm X and Dr. King. You know, it was a combination of both. Dr. King gave me the theory that you can put something together that would be so pungent, where it get everyone's attention, but yet still so nonviolent. That's what the demonstration. Malcolm X gave me the inner strength to go forth and do it regardless of what anyone had to say or feel about it, because it was the right thing to do. You know, in terms of death, you said, you know, it's a heavy thing to know that you have a bullseye on your back and you're getting ready to die. But both of them had the thought or the presence of mind that you might take my life, but you can never take what I've done. You can't take away what has been put down on the table. You cannot erase that. You know, when I said that to Dr. King about, you know, they talking about taking your life. He said to me, he said, John, I've done many things in the flesh that I'm renowned for around the world. He said, that would pale in comparison if they were to take my life in terms of what I would be in the spirit. You know, and years later, I'm sitting in my living room one day, and I said to God, God, why are you allowing this to happen to us? We're the same blood. Why are you allowing this to happen to us? And I'm sitting there, and he says to me, he says, John, he said, imagine you're a rat, a black rat. You're in a white man's house. He said, you scurrying through the house. You ain't bothering nobody. You look for some cheese or something to nibble on. He said, the white man see you. He's going to set a trap to catch you in the corner. He said, it's one or two things going to happen. Either you're going to be meek in the corner and you're going to allow him to destroy your life, or either you're going to learn how to defend your life. And I thought that was it. He said, no, look down. It's two parallels I want you to look at. The first parallel was where I saw a guy on the ground and the police standing around and they kicking him and they beating him with sticks with Rodney King. He said, well, you too close. Back up in front of the picture. And when I backed up, he said, what do you see? And what did I see? I saw Rodney King in the center. I saw the police beating him. And then I saw people that looked like me and you standing around with their cameras taking pictures of it. I didn't see no one go to try and push the police off of them. They just stood there and watched it. Then he said, oh, we ain't done. Go back a little more. Years later, there's a guy named Floyd. He's on the ground. The police got his foot on his neck. He hollered, I can't breathe. And he said, back up. I back up again. Black people taking pictures of it. No one went to bump the police off to save the man's life. And it made me think of when I was a kid. I'm watching on TV in the civil rights era. And I saw a black woman, had a white dress on. I saw them knock this black woman down to the ground. She was pregnant. And the police grabbed her by the crown of her hair and was dragging her. And I thought that was the most horrible thing I ever seen as a young man in my life. But as they dragging her, it was two black men standing there.
Just watching.
And when they drug them by the men, they didn't even flinch, like to make a move to try and stop this police from dragging her. So what I'm saying is, in essence, where have we grown in terms of having the right to defend our life? So God told me, he said, you tell them, regardless of that Christianity they told you about, if they're beating you down, ready to take your life, I'm not coming out the sky to save you. Your responsibility is to save your flesh and blood. My responsibility as your God is to protect your soul and get ready for your soul, because that's the everlasting essence of you. Okay? And we still waiting for the man to come save us. The same man that's killing us and perpetrating everything upon us, we looking for him to save us. You know, and that goes back to what I said about the church, Christianity. How you gonna have the cross and all the religious vows up here, and then underneath you got the devil's work? No, I'm not with that.
So you call yourself a spiritual person, and you talk about black people being very spiritual. Do you think that it has a lot to do with the African traditional spirituality, or just something that's naturally ingrained in black people?
Well, you know, when you sit back and think about it, we had our God, Okay? Our God is the universe. We're the water God, we're the sun God. You understand? We had various gods. They came in and brought a book and told us, no, that's not your God. Here's your God. This is a picture of your God. You look like me. So everything that I'm doing is okay because my God says for me to do. So we started believing that. I drive through Africa right now and look at some churches, they still got a white God that they got on their church. Their symbol right now to this day. So I'm saying, it reminds me back when I was a young kid and I was looking at life for what it was. And I remember me and my brother used to go snatch oranges and apples off the produce truck. But the produce truck, it was like a cart. It used to be a horse and buggy. Well, they had a horse and buggy for the produce stand, they had a horse and buggy for the ice stand, and then the police was on a horse. And I noticed something about all the horses. Every horse had blinders on them. Mm-hmm. So if the horse saw sun was shining over here and he's in the rain, he couldn't see the sun because he got that blind on. If he got a nag over here and he's looking for a honey and he can't see the honey because he got that blind on. Okay? All they can see is straight ahead where they want him to go. You understand? That's what they do to us. That's what the essence of go for the goal. Don't look to the right, don't look to the left, look for the goal. Okay? And until we wake up and realize this. When I was a kid, I used to every little kid wanted to go to the movies and see something in the movies. And I remember we used to turn the TV in at night, and every night they would have a white man come on TV, and he was called the movie critic. And he's the one to tell you what movie you're supposed to go see. Mm-hmm. Oh, don't go see Roots because Roots is not worth you going to see. How you going to determine what's good for me to go see? But that's the way they were brainwashing us. You sit back so many ways, so many factors in which they do until you say, oh, blackness. Blackness right now. When you say black is a negative. Oh, that black cat ran across the road. Bad luck. Oh, Black Friday. Bad luck. You understand? But let me show you how they flip it. They tell us that you're bad luck. But let me show you how they go about respect. When you think about respect, think about this. When in America, if they're losing money economically, they say we're in the what? We're in the red. Mm-hmm. Okay? Did it ever dawn on you why they say we're in the red?
No, I never really thought about it.
Well, they say we're in the red because who gave them the most resistance? The Indians. When they came to take the land from the Indians, Indians didn't lay down and say, come on and get it. Indians fought them. So while they fighting them, they didn't have opportunity to make that capital gain because they wasted so much time fighting them to get the land. So they gave respect to them. Yeah, we're in the red. We didn't get the money that we thought we was going to get right away. And then on the flip side of that, say, all right, when we're making money, they didn't say we're in the green. What did they say?
The black.
We're in the black. Why? Do you know why? Because the black make the least amount of money, but they spend the most per capita in any race on the planet. You understand? So they give them respect. Now I'm going to tell you this before it's all done. Any black person, from Harriet Tubman on up to today, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Paul Robeson, any of them, Rosa Parks, any of them that stepped out, made a statement, they had to deal with something that I deal with on a regular basis, and that's envy and jealousy. Jealousy and envy. And you sit back and you say to yourself, well, why would you be jealous of me, man? Everything I'm doing, I'm coming to you with my hands, my palms up. I'm trying to help you. Why are you jealous of me? And I'm gonna give you a prelude as to what I'm saying. People always say, man, after you made that statement, how was life? What was life like? I told them, I said, I was 23 years old when I did that. And I was very proud of doing it, feeling just free, like shackles had been broken away from me. I said, and I was on a pine tree. Pine trees go enormously tall, mm-hmm. Right? So now, as I'm going up, I'm realizing that the branches under me are black arms. But I'm still on the top branch. And when I get up, as I'm going up, the turbulence is coming because the wind is blowing. So it's treacherous there. But then even in that, I hear something in the back sawing, like they sawing that branch off. I kind of look back. I said, well, I ain't got time to look back. Let me keep forward. Let me keep focused. And eventually the branch breaks. But I have no concern about that because all those arms underneath were black arms. They're gonna catch me. But you know what they did? They retracted. So in other words, I was bouncing for 57 years, bouncing. Everyone that did something is bouncing until you understand what's going on relative to that jealousy and envy. Now it took me years before I figured it out. God said to me, he said, listen, they're not envious to you in the sense that you're talking about. He said, they love you. But here's the deal. He said, they're jealous of you because most of them got caca in their face. That's called brown nosing.
Okay.
Kiss butt to get what they thought they was getting in life. They sit back and they say, now, this guy didn't kiss no butt. But today he's living better than I'm living. He got a little more money in his pocket than me. Understand? And he didn't change who he was. So now I'm jealous of you. Okay, I understand that. So walk down the road a little farther. He said, now let's look at this word envy. So you know why they're envious of you? No, make me understand. Why would they be envious of me and I'm doing everything to help them? And he says to me, he said, well, listen. He said, they're envious of you not because they don't have love for you. They're envious of you because they brown nosed so long and they did everything and they realized at the bottom line when the dust settled that white man do not like them no more than he liked me. Ain't no like for me. But they didn't think that the dislike was the same for both. But then when they sit back and they say, wow, he don't like me and he don't like him. But one thing about him, they have respect for him. They don't like me and they don't respect me. You understand what I'm saying? So they don't like what I did. They don't like what Malcolm X did. They don't like what Minister Farrakhan is doing. They don't like what Harriet Tubman or Rosa Parks did, or Paul Robeson. Any individual person of color that stepped up, they don't like them, but they respect them. When you sit back and you say, well, there's a lot of people throughout history that have done things. Why is it that God's heroes rise and man-made heroes fall? They don't talk about, John Wayne, but they talk about Rosa Parks. They don't talk about Liz Taylor, but they talk about Harriet Tubman. You understand? They don't talk about Jack Johnson, but they talk about Joe Louis. So these are God-made heroes. And then they have man-made heroes. Man-made heroes dissipate. God-given heroes, they rise, even to this day.
That's deep. What do you think we need to do to bring ourselves together? Because I know earlier in the conversation you talked about the division between people on the continent and people in the diaspora. What do we need to do to bring ourselves together? Because I keep seeing, even online, you see these diaspora wars, they call them, Black people abroad saying this and this and this, like you were saying. Black people not trusting Africans, Africans not trusting Black people in America or UK, Canada, wherever. What do we need to do to bring ourselves together?
Well, the first thing I would say, there's always room for roundtable discussions on both sides of the fence. But at the same time, when you had a roundtable discussion, the discussion should not focus on what's happening to us. Because the audience know what's happening to us. That's why they're there, because they're feeling that pain. We need to start focusing on the solution to the problem, not so much talking about the problem. You understand? And a lot of times when we get the roundtable discussion going, everybody want to flaunt their intellectual. Yeah, I'm smart. I'm going to show you I'm smart. Let's talk about what they've done and why they've done it. Yeah, man, we know why they've done it. And we know what they're doing. Let's roll up our sleeves and get busy to try and solve the equation. This racism thing, all this stuff that's going down is like mathematics and astrology. It's the same situation. We got to roll up our sleeves. We have the intelligence to solve this thing, but we got to put our egos aside. We got to start thinking about what happened and start thinking about how to resolve what happened. And that's the only way it's going to change, until we focus. And a part of that is, like I said, it extends all the way down to these little kids. When we resolve it, we got to put it in them. when you was a kid, if you went to the movies, whether you was a cowboy and Indian movie, it was an African movie, cowboys, they'd be riding on the range, the Indians come, they kill one Indian, and then they try and make it like all the other Indians ran because they killed the chief. Tarzan, when they made the African movies, Tarzan, white boy, come out of nowhere. He's ruling the animals, he's ruling the natives, he's ruling everybody. And then when the natives get enough back to say, well, we're gonna challenge this dude, he beats up the king and the rest of the natives run, don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And you sit back and you say to yourself, say, wow, how can we be back this far in time in America? Because they took Dr. King's life, because they took Malcolm X's life, because they took so many leaders' lives before that. When is it gonna take that much more time for us to realize that collectively, everybody got to learn the same situation. So if they take brother, I'm here. If they take me, he's there. They take him, you're there. We are there as one. But we can't let one individual have all the knowledge and when he goes, then we sit back another 1,000 years. I mean, this is just, it's like that dog chasing his tail. Mm-hmm. You know, at the end of the day, he's tired as hell, but he never caught his tail.
How does it feel having seen a black president in the United States when President Obama became president? Do you think that actually shifted the way people think in America about black people? Or do you think that it was a catalyst to where we are now with the current administration?
Well, I think it was a symbol to sedate black people in America, mm-hmm. Okay? Because, I mean, they had a plan for him. And when people say, what do you mean they had a plan for him? I say, you know, when they let him be the president, all black people in America felt, oh, we're saved, we got a black president. But he wasn't doing no more what they wanted him to do. You understand? When you sit back and you think, say, well, what did he go, what was his initial vested interest in going to be the president? What did they allow him to do? What did he do for any black people? He did more for sexual conquest than anything based on, you know, the sexual gender. He did great for them. But what did he do for black people specific? White presidents go in there, they do things for white people. He ain't do nothing for us. But then you sit back and say, well, let me turn the page. What did he do? Well, when he went in, what happened to Gaddafi? Gaddafi died under his reign. He sent him in to get Gaddafi. Okay? It's just like when something go down in Africa, who do they send? They send a black general over here to try and persuade Africans here to change their attitude. You understand? Mm-hmm. And until we wake up to these things, it's not like the horse with the blinders anymore. People tell me in America, oh man, after what they did to us in slavery, I say, man, slavery was 400 years ago, 500 years ago. You still calling back on that crutch about what they did to us in slavery. What are you doing to yourself today? Yeah, we know what they did. What are you doing? Crying about what they did? Nah, it ain't gonna never change. Understand? We got to wake up. You sit back and say, it's a sand clock. You know, like I used to tell kids in school, say, hey man, that clock on the wall, man, you look at it, it says 1 hour, 2 hours, all the way to 12. I said, but the hour sign is not the important sign. The red dial on that clock, that's the important sign. The second hand clock is the most important. I said, because every time to make a revolution, you shimmy. And they said, what do you mean you shimmy? I said, man, you shimmying across the bridge. We cross the bridge to what? Cross the bridge to adulthood. If you don't have anything to learn right now in the time span that you have, the clock is not stopping because you ain't learning shit. Understand? If you're not learning about how to deal with this life that you live and the oppression that you live and learn about how you can suspend all of this, I see whether you are paying attention or got your sleeves rolled up to get busy on that, the time is still moving. You on the other side of the bridge. Now, if you over there and you have no knowledge, whose fault is that? It ain't his fault. He gave you time in life to figure it out. But we want to say, oh, no, man, God, why would you do this to me? Understand?
Mm-hmm. So what can people do to change? Because you said that, you know, the slave trade happened over 400, 500 years ago, and that you said people are standing on a crutch with it. What can those people do to shift their mindset in your opinion? What can they do? Because I know that a lot of people have said that what happened then certainly affects the way people view Black people today. What can they do to change?
Well, you know, we had maybe 1 or 2 Black billionaires back in the early 1900s, okay? Or millionaires, I shouldn't say billionaires, millionaires. Today we have many millionaires and a few billionaires. For the general public, Black public, and for them to start challenging those millionaires and those few billionaires in terms of questioning them. Why haven't you tried and resurrect Black Wall Street? Why haven't you come back into the neighborhood and build the schools up? Why haven't you built a medical facility here? Why haven't you done anything specifically to help your people on a universal basis? Challenge them. You have a right to challenge them. You spend money to go watch them play. So why wouldn't you have a right to go there and say, if you're gonna be my mouthpiece, because that's what the media do, they make the sports person the mouthpiece for everyday people. Well, everyday people have a right to tell them, say, man, these are my concerns, this is my pain, this is what I'm feeling, and my kid can't have this, or my kid can't have that. You know what it's like to go to school and you don't have a pair of pants, or you don't have a pair of tennis shoes, and then you see another kid that come out of a different country going to school, and he driving a BMW coming to school, and you got holes in your sneakers walking to school? Well, imagine they're defeated before they even get started. But man, I'm so far behind and nobody gives a hoot about me, because within our own sector, our most famous people that got the money, they don't show no concern, no genuine concern about us. You know, and the only way things gonna change in terms of saying love is when someone shows love, someone that has the compassion to say, man, I'm building this school. I'm gonna go get the best minds we have, mathematicians, scientists, you know, biologists, whatever, and we're gonna send them to this school. I'm gonna get the best business minds, I'm gonna send them to this school. We have a right to do this. We can do this, but it's about money. But let me tell you why, from my perspective, why I think it doesn't happen. When we were kids going to grade school, and the teacher comes and the teacher says, listen, John, we're gonna have a spelling test tomorrow. Go home. But in our home, there's friction. Why? Because dad is not home, mom is trying to work 2 jobs, or mom and dad got friction, they arguing. But the bottom line is, I can't study for the spelling test because of the chaos that's going in the house. I gotta make sure my little baby and sister get something to eat, make sure they get a bath, so I didn't get a chance to study. So I said, Rick, did you get a chance to study them words? Rick said, man, I studied, I got it. Now Rick said, man, I know your situation. You can copy off my paper. It's not like I'm cheating. I know right now, as much as Rick know, I have to pass this test today. He know I can learn to spell them words next week, but I have to pass today. So Rick said, man, look at my paper. And I look down, and the teacher, whether it's a male or female, the woman turns into like the police voice. Rick, come up your paper. Don't show him your paper, and intimidate him to the point where he's covered up now, okay? So now Rick grows with this in mind. That echoes in his brain. Don't let John see what you got. That's why we can't come together economically to sit down and say, because I'm so busy trying to shield my money, I can't let you see what kind of money I got. And you gotta put the money on the table if we're gonna do anything. So it's like trust. You sit back, you still go back to religion. You see, well, when they changed the color structure of the creator, God was white from their perspective. But before their perspective, they said, nah, man, God is black, but we got to do something about that. So they start brightening God up. They gave him long hair, they gave him blue eyes. Okay? They put him in our churches. But then you sit back and you say, wow, when they changed them, they changed God, they changed Mary Magdalene, they changed all the disciples but one. Black man, and they gave him the name Judas. Now, why did they leave Judas black? Okay.
To tell a narrative?
They said Judas to be black. And then if you think about the aura about Judas, what did they say God said? God said, I know what he does before he know it. He knows not what he does. Understand? Like God knew that Judas was going to turn him in or dime on him, right? So in turn, when Judas told, say, without nod or whatever, that's him. God tell him, I know it. But then the bottom line was God said, I forgive him. I forgive him. So we grew up realizing, well, Judas was the traitor. He's the snitch. But he's forgiven. So I don't mind being Judas because I'm forgiven. I'm saved anyway. And then you sit back and you say, well, every great leader that we had, there was a Judas standing right next to him. Because the white man couldn't send the white man in to get us. It's like I said, that's why they send the black general over here. You understand? So they got Judas there and he feel good doing it because I'm forgiven. My black God, he gonna forgive me. Even though I sold my brother down the line, I'm forgiven. And that's the way they brainwash us. We suck it up and we don't even realize that we're doing it until it's said and done. So when you go to bed tonight, you're gonna have a lot of things to think about.
Yeah, a lot to think about, You're in Ghana for a few more days. What are some of the things you want to do before you leave?
Well, you know, the thing that I love more than anything is to just see the culture of the people. See the people, you know, in the marketplace, how free they are, how they drive here. It's like they're protected. You know, they drive so crazy, but yet and still, with their craziness and with our order in America driving, I see 10 times more accidents in the correct way they say you're supposed to drive opposed to the wildness that they drive. I don't see nobody. I mean, they got 18-wheelers here driving. They got Volkswagens driving. They got, you know, mini bikes driving.
Motorcycles are free in and out.
And I haven't seen one accident yet. But through it all, whereas in America right now, with the pressure, people pulling guns on one another. Okay? I've never seen anyone show any disrespect or any ill intent. All they show is love. They acknowledge one another, man. They nod, thank you, sir. Let me go on through with my little bike. They tap their horn, let them know I'm coming. You understand? In America, the sad thing is that we don't have a way to build that bridge between young black Americans and Africans, young black Africans, in terms of the two cultures blending in one another to say, hey man, this is the way I handle it, opposed to what you're trying to teach me. Let me show you something. And it's such a great divide. You know, it's a long way. It's not like you can get in your car and drive across the border and you be in Africa. You know,
it's a long way.
It's a long way.
And not everyone can afford it.
Absolutely. When you say not everyone can afford it, think about this. I'm 80 years old. When I was a kid, we didn't know nothing about a bank account. Not until I got to be maybe 20 years old did I find out something about a bank account. And then when I did find out about a bank account, you might have in your bank account, maybe $150, if you had that much. Now here we are in 2025 with the chaos that's going on in America right now with this president and so forth going on. Let's say it got worse than that, and it's damn near to that point now, where people say, man, I got to leave America. The Arab could say in the Middle East, man, we out of here. He go get him a ticket and he gone. The Jew, same situation. Yeah, I'm out of here. He get a ticket, he gone. The Puerto Rican can go to Puerto Rico, get him a ticket, he gone. Jamaican, get a ticket, go to Jamaica. Where does the black American go? And people tell me, well, he can go to the same place. No, he can't go to the same place. What do you mean he can't go to the same place? I said, well, you think he can go with his dimples? You think he can go there and smile? They gonna let him on the plane? He got to have money. I said, go to his bank account and see how much money he got in his bank account. The average black family don't have $500 in their bank account if they have a bank account. So how are we gonna go anywhere? How are we gonna do anything? Ain't nobody teaching us to say, man, you better save your money for a rainy day. You ain't got to send it all. But they have us go to the bar. We go to the bar, man. We go in the bar. We make maybe $500. We go in the bar. We drink 2/3 of that up in the bar. Common sense will tell you, man, well, if you got to have a drink, go to the liquor store and buy you your own pint. But instead, you can go to the bar and pay whatever for a shot of whiskey. At the end of the day, you ain't got no money. So how you gonna have any future down the line? How you gonna have an escape route if you have no path? And that's what we up against.
Well, thank you for all of the insightful things that you shared today.
Well, you know, let me tell you something. You know, I'm just like, you know, you ever take a rock and hit it up against another rock? What are you looking for? You're looking for a spark, right?
Yes.
That's what I am. I'm the spark.
Yes.
Okay? I tell black people, I say, you know, look at life like this. If there's a gas tank and it smells like gas, but you are listening to somebody telling you, man, no gas in your tank, but you know it's a gas tank and you know it smells like gas, but you're hearing somebody on the other side tell you, there's no gas in there. Are you gonna believe your own mind, your own nose, or you gonna believe this guy on the other side? No gas there. Go get you a torch, man, and look down in there. Now, you gonna take a torch and put it in the gas tank to see if it's gas? No. What's gonna happen?
It's gonna explode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know where I learned that from? I learned that from people used to always say to me, well, they said this, John, they said that. In reference, like they say, John, they say you walk the water. What do you mean I walk the water? You walk the water like God did. Man, I didn't walk no water. No, man, tell me the truth. You did walk the water. They said you walked the water. Who is they? They are the people that own the New York Times. And their caption on the New York Times say, John Carlos walked the water. Man, don't pay attention to that. I'm telling you I didn't walk no water. Well, hold on. Let me call my brother in California. Man, what does the LA Times say? John Carlos walked the water. They're going to look at me. I'm the subject matter. But they're going to look at me and tell me, man, you lying. Because the New York Times say you walked it. The LA Times say you walked it. And that's what we believe as people. We believe them more than we believe ourselves. Like the old phrase, they say, don't believe your eyes, believe what I tell you. All right?
I hope you all have enjoyed this conversation with Dr. John Carlos, iconic man, a part of history. He is a part of history. And so we have to glean and learn from some of the things that he has said here today. If you have any comments, any questions, put them in the comment section. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you. I always love speaking to our elders. And one of the things I always want to tell people, talk to your elders. They have a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, so much stuff they can share that you can learn from our elders. You wake up tomorrow and they might not be here, and then you'll regret not talking to them. So make sure you talk to them. Your parents, your uncles, your aunts, people in the community, make sure you ask them the questions because they have stories to tell. Thank you so much for watching.
Let me just say one thing on the way out. You call me an elder and you say I'm a part of history.
Yes.
There's many of us that's been out there in the same situation that I'm in. But at my age and the other individuals, there's few of us left. But we look with tears in our eyes. And why are we looking with tears in our eyes? Because we don't see the youth stepping up to fill our shoes. Understand? When we leave, it's got to be a replacement. It's like a leaf fall off a tree. Why did it fall off? Because God is bringing a new tree. But I don't see these new leaves in humanity coming. And if they don't come, we got a grim future.
You heard that. If they don't come, we have a grim future. On that note, I will see you next time. Don't forget to share this video, like this video, and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.